So I think that we can get going because we have a very full schedule. For those that don't know me, I'm the person waving an arm that disappears sometimes with a virtual background with the ALS TDI logo behind me. My name is Carol Hamilton. I'm the Senior Vice President of Development here. But those of you who know us know we all wear a whole bunch of different hats. And today I'm delighted to be able to welcome everybody to this very special town hall. I'd like to thank our sponsors, really, the organizations and companies that help us deliver all of the educational resources that we can to the ALS community. So thank you to, you see them here on the bottom, Cytokinetics, Biogen, Amylyx, Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America, Apellis, and InSource Services. We are grateful. So a little bit of Zoom Ask Info. We are going to default have everybody on mute. Those of you listening, to everybody who's listening to me right now will be happy about that, I bet, for me at least. But we have a whole bunch of presenters and a couple of other people who are going to talk and help introduce them today. So we're going to be pretty liberal with people unmuting themselves because we are going to guess it's because you are part of that group that I just mentioned. I'd also like to introduce the development team at ALS TDI. If you could wave your arms around, Michelle Dupree, Glynis Murray, Melissa Payne, and Courtney Mish. These are your contact people. You will hear from them after this town hall to hear from you some feedback. You'll also most likely get an email from ALS TDI asking more formally for feedback. But these are the people that will connect with you to help answer any outstanding questions that you have. Most of the questions that you have will most likely be for our presenters, so we will get them to them after if we don't address them all this afternoon. And now I'd like to introduce our Manager of Science Communications, John Gang, who will provide a brief overview of ALS TDI before handing it over to our esteemed patient fellows.
Thank you, Carol. As Carol said, my name is John Gang. I'm the Manager of Science Communications here at ALS-CDI, and just want to welcome you to today's town hall, where we will be hearing insights from patient fellows who attended the International Symposium on ALS MND. Today's agenda, we're just going to have a brief introduction to ALS-TDI from me for those of you who might be joining us for the first time. Then we will hear from the patient fellows themselves talking about what they learned at the symposium, and then we are going to open things up to your questions. And so a brief introduction to us at the ALS Therapy Development Institute. Our mission is to discover and develop treatments for everyone with ALS. And we were the first ever nonprofit biotech. We were founded in 1999 by the family of Stephen Haywood. You can see him down there in the picture on the left in the orange shirt. He is in our first office, which was in his family's basement in Newton. And Stephen was diagnosed with ALS at the age of 29. And when his family found out there were no effective treatments available for him, they decided that they were going to do something about it. And so they founded the company in their basement. And today we are the most comprehensive drug discovery lab in the world, focused solely on ALS. We have a state-of-the-art lab in Watertown, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. And we put 87 cents of every dollar we raise into finding effective treatments and cures for ALS. And unfortunately, Stephen Haywood passed away in 2006. But in the picture down there on the right, you can see his son in the blue shirt hanging out with us at our in our lab. So this is still very much a family affair, and the Haywood family still influences everything we do. And at ALS-TDI, our mission more specifically is to be the drug discovery engine for ALS. And what this means is that we do the rigorous research that is needed to fill the ALS clinical pipeline. We work to discover and invent new ALS drugs in our lab. We partner with other companies to help ensure that those drugs and other drugs from across the industry are able to advance to trial. And unlike a normal biotech company that might invent one drug and then follow it along through the trial process and market it once it's been improved, we go back to the drawing board if we find something that can advance and continue to do this over and over again. And we will keep doing this until there are treatments for every person who is affected by ALS. And over the years, ALS TDI has had a large impact on ALS. We have rigorously tested over 550 drugs in animal models of ALS, which is more than any ALS research lab in the world. We're the first nonprofit biotech to invent a potential ALS treatment, tegoprubart, and bring it from our own lab through FDA review and into clinical trials. And it completed a phase 2A trial in 2022. Successfully. And we recently launched the ALS Research Collaborative, a global initiative to accelerate ALS research by gathering comprehensive data from people with ALS to learn more about the disease. And we also developed the ARC Data Commons, which is a cloud-based online platform to advance global ALS drug discovery by allowing researchers around the world to access and analyze the data that we've gathered through ARC. And one new service that we are offering to the ALS community that is coming very soon is the ALS Trial Navigator, which is an innovative set of online tools to help match people with ALS to trials that they might be eligible for and help make informed decisions about what trials you might be interested in. This tool is going to provide the opportunity to explore research all over the world in the US and in many other countries across the globe. And will also allow people to fill out a questionnaire that will unlock a personalized list of trials tailored to your eligibility and your preferences. We'll also provide a personalized portal which will let you make an account and save, make notes, and bookmark trials that you are interested in. And it will also have a lot of educational elements to help you learn important terms and concepts to make informed decisions about trials. And this will be available on ALS TDI's website very soon in the next couple weeks. And so with that, I would like to hand things over to Dr. Nadia Sethi, ALS TDI's Director of Community Engagement and Outreach, to kick off the rest of the program.
Thank you so much, John. I'm going to share screen here, which is always unpredictable. All right, we did it. Okay, so I was hoping that we would have Kathy Collett here to do this part of the presentation. She may be able to join us. We'll see if she's able to come. But what's nice is that I do have her words. She actually sent me a little overview in advance. So I'm going to go ahead and share some of the things that she said. So the ALS Patient Fellows, the whole attitude of this program is nothing about us without us. Seeds of the program were planted about a decade ago when a few people noticed that there were not very many people living with ALS at the MND Symposium. There were scientists, pharmaceutical executives, nonprofit staff, but there weren't people with ALS. They were often perceived as not being up to the hard science. Some people didn't want them there because of difficult topics being discussed. Some people just never thought of people living with ALS as being important or needed there. And the few people with ALS who were there were paying their own hefty registration fees and expenses. And so Kathy's words, this is an old school scientific symposium. So at that time, Kathy Collett, Rob Goldstein, and Paul Wicks, which you guys might be familiar with. Rob used to work with ALS TDI, and he now works for Ionis Pharmaceuticals. And Paul Wicks has been very involved with patients like me and many other ALS initiatives since then. The three of them were kind of furious at the barriers between people living with ALS and the symposium, and they started a mission to have opportunities for people living with ALS to be part of the world's largest meeting on ALS and MND. So how did they go about this? Well, they raised funds independently because they didn't want to take money away from the mission of any existing ALS organizations and charities. And then they came up with an application process and a scoring rubric that they're still using today. And they look for people with ALS, and in more recent years, also caregivers and people in genetic ALS families who have a good grasp of the existing science and who will benefit and contribute to the scientific dialogue and also spread the word about the things that they're hearing. There is a volunteer selection team that's always composed of at least half of the members being people with ALS or MND. The history of the program, I'm going to go into this a little bit. The first patient fellows were selected for the symposium in 2017 in Boston. The patient fellows program paid their registration, a couple of hotel nights, and a pasta dinner. The program runs on a very modest budget. The patient fellows asked great questions at the symposium, and there was no doubt that they belonged there. In 2018, the patient fellows were short on funds, and there were only 3 patient fellows in Glasgow. But again, they were good contributors to the scientific discourse. 2 of those patient fellows have continued as loyal members of the selection team. And in a discussion that I was having with Kathy, she was letting me know that they weren't actually sure if the program was even going to be able to go on after that point. But it seems like they really made it work. Because in 2019, the program found a lot of traction in Perth, Australia. The symposium waived registration fees for the patient fellows, and that made a really big difference in what the program was able to offer in terms of travel stipends and hotel nights. Researchers were embracing the contributions of the patient fellows. The ALS MND Alliance generously offered patient fellows access to all of their meetings held right before the symposium. And then 2020, 2021, and 2022 were COVID years, and so they maintained the program remotely. And then for 2023, the patient fellows just completed a hybrid program, and the program is undoubtedly embraced by symposium leadership. People with ALS belong there and are welcome there. The question and answer periods are brief, and it was amazing this year, in Kathy's words, when a breakout room moderator was about to cut off the Q&A, and another moderator, Dr. Paganoni, said, "Wait, a patient fellow has a question," and they took the question. And so there's been a lot of great changes. I know, Carol, you've mentioned that you have been part of this program in many ways, and Kathy was letting me know that you're involved in the selection committee kind of on your own time. I don't know if you have any comments to add. And I know you mentioned to me the 2017 in Boston meeting as well. Do you have anything that you
Just
want?
that it's been amazing. And as Nadia and some of the other people on this Zoom know, that when we came up with the idea, it was with, this group of people in mind, and the opportunity for you all to share your learnings made me very proud. It feels like it completes the circle a little bit. And I'll tell you, as someone who scores everybody, it's rough. There are some very smart and committed people who apply for this. So thank you to everybody who took part in the program.
Thank you, Carol. All right, and with that, this was our group in December of 2023 that was involved with the MND Symposium. The ones that are highlighted in blue are the wonderful speakers that we're going to have here with us today. But I'm so grateful for this program. And I was really, really excited. I kept telling everybody I'm so excited for this town hall because once the symposium is over, we often don't get to hear how people are putting into action the things that they learned. And so I'm just really delighted to have this group here with us today. So we're going to start with David Shulman. And we will go ahead and take questions at the end. Oh, and actually, before I do that, Gwen, you're with us. If you want to give kind of a little update on plans for this year and how people can get involved.
Yeah, thanks, Nadia. I'm just gonna be quick and share a few key dates, timeframes for 2024. Applications are going to be open in June. In the meantime, and this is pretty cool and pretty helpful, you can go to alspatientfellows.org. I will drop that link in chat. So if you visit the Patient Fellows website, in advance, you can actually view the actual application that we use. You can view the names of past patient fellows, and Phil Green and myself a few years ago recorded a video speaking to our experiences as past fellows. So feel free to check out any and all of that stuff. Applications are open roughly for 1 month. It's about, 4 weeks. Applicants will be notified in July, probably late July, whether or not they were selected, and that includes both in person and online fellows. So really good note there. So of course we'd love to see you in person, but ALS being ALS, we know that is not always possible. So there is a hybrid component to the fellowship. So again, online and in person. And then one other note, if you're interested in submitting a scientific poster to be shown at the event, last year in 2023, abstracts were open from May 9th to June 7th. Thanks, Nadia.
Thank you so much, Gwen. I really appreciate all of that information. I know people want to know how they can get involved. Kathy Cummings, do you have anything that you wanted to add? Because I know you're going to be helping with the program this year.
Yeah, the program is going to move over underneath the auspices of the Alliance, and we plan on making no changes. Everything that Gwen described and that you described in Kathy's words, Nadia, will remain in place in terms of it being a grassroots program about trying to embed people with lived experience into the research symposium. We're hoping to grow the program in terms of in the future years. This year it will stay focused on the International Symposium, and in future years we're hoping to grow the program to other research programs that exist around the world, and include more people with lived experience in those research programs as well. But everything should remain very static in terms of the application process, the timing that Gwen talked about, and it's we'll be helping to administer the program and keep it sustainable for the long term.
It's really great to hear from you, Kathy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think we just had Kathy Collett actually join us. And so, Kathy, I'm going to give you a second here, but what I did was I actually shared your words pretty much. But I'm going to give you a couple minutes here because it's better coming from you than it is from me.
I need no time. I'm sorry for having to be late, but I just heard the end of what Kathy Cummings said, and she's absolutely right. And if Gwen talked to you are the best. It's a good program. It's hard to believe that 10 years ago there were people who needed to be convinced that we needed to do this. And I'm just so glad that it has blossomed and it's kind of on a crest. We had a great group in Basel, and I look forward to it moving forward, doing more and bigger and better things under the tutelage of the Alliance. So thank you very much.
And just know, Kathy, David, Shulman, and Katrina have their scarves on right now. So, yep, I see yours.
Are we keeping the scarves for next year, Kathy Cummings? Okay, perfect. Just making sure. Yeah, and you get a scarf. All
And we'll
right.
see what we can do about that virtual scarf. We'll have to do one of those. I don't know how you do that, where you add something to your profile picture and everybody should wear a virtual scarf.
Perfect. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presentations. So let's see how this goes. So first up, Dave Shulman, if you want to go ahead and unmute, we're really excited to hear from you.
Thanks, Nadia. Thanks, team. So we flip over to the next page, a little bit about me. I am a husband, a father of two, 13 and 11, and a new puppy parent. I know that picture on the bottom left looks like a greeting card. It is actually my Shih Tzu. So we are absolutely blessed, and he's a godsend. I've been in banking for over 20 years. I came into the world of ALS with a hand that wasn't fully working, and at about 1 year ago, and led to my diagnosis in May of 2023. And just given my kind of analytical personality, I started asking a bunch of burning questions. Why aren't there strong therapies yet? What's getting in the way? How do we make faster, better progress? And that kind of led me down the road of the Niels Conference and the Research Ambassador Program, as well as the Patient Fellows Program, where I could just get myself immersed in the latest and greatest research and figure out how to put my, everything I have to try to help in the cause. And just in terms of current efforts, I'm involved in the Peace Committee through Niels, the Healy Platform Trial PAC, the Focus ALS PAC, and a couple working groups around biomarkers, both the AMP ALS effort as well as work ongoing by Everything ALS. Next slide. So why did I apply to be a patient fellow? Well, one, you get this nifty red scarf. No, just kidding. Well, we didn't. It was a surprise. And I'll pause to say that the red scarf at the conference was the best conversation starter. You absolutely notice all these patients around, and it really kind of changed the experience I think for me at least. So yeah, just a little note there. But really, I got in to learn about the latest research and progress and share that hope and excitement back with ALS patients, caregivers, families here. I wanted to contribute my voice to the dialogue and make sure that the patient experience is seen as a priority. I wanted to expand my network across the landscape to help with my advocacy, to connect with other patient fellows who've been on this journey longer and learn from them. And honestly, to, given I'm relatively newly diagnosed in the grand scheme, inform where I should focus and hone my own advocacy efforts, because I really want to make an impact, and I can't make that impact if I'm doing a lot of very different things. And lastly, to have fun. I actually found the experience, found the experience to be a very fun and fulfilling one. So next slide. So what did I learn while I was in Basel? I think the first thing that was driven home for me is that, and which is really heartening and encouraging, is that ALS is stoppable. And there were a few segments of the conference that showed us that, but one in particular was a patient who has FUS ALS, which is a juvenile form of the disease, very fast moving, and effectively had been delivered a medication, and was still several years later walking around and almost recovering and with improved function as a result. Received a standing O from Everett, which was incredible. And then there was also the stories from the 2-year readout of tofersen, and we've all hopefully anecdotally heard about what that's done for SOD1 and folks who are thriving on that medication. So that, I think, was probably, one of the most encouraging things I took away. One is that another was just that being there, like as a patient, is essential to the industry, the landscape, making rapid, effective, and ethical progress towards better outcome. And I'll talk more about, how I spoke up in some of the meetings in a way that I thought was additive to the dialogue. But what I would say is that, as ALS patients, no one's going to carry us over the hill, right? We have to get out and push with the researchers, with the pharmas, with the government, with everyone, because they can't really get there without us and our input and whatnot. The game-changing breakthroughs are happening all around the world all the time, and there were numerous instances of that being shown. That our understanding of genetics and ALS is constantly evolving. There was one really interesting bit of work where a doctor talked about a gene that is expressed in cases of ALS reversals, and are there ways that we can potentially leverage that towards a therapy? That neurodegenerative diseases are very closely related. There was a full day session covering ALS and FTD, where it was agreed by several prominent members of the community that they are really two diseases on the same spectrum. And, I think that provides a lot of hope in terms of, being able to leverage both funding and drug pipelines potentially to solve not just ALS, but other, tangential diseases as well. And then gene therapies that could someday help even sporadic ALS. And I think the one thing I'd kind of wrap on is that clinical trial results. I think, as a patient, I always kind of, probably my going in thought was that, if something doesn't work, it's just kind of, they cut it off and it's kind of dies. But everything gets discussed by the scientific community and learned from. All that information goes into research, gets kind of drawn conclusions, and informs the next generation of research and trials and whatnot. And I thought that was very heartening to see with respect to, the clinical trial portion of the conference. So next page. So how will this experience shape my ALS advocacy journey? I think one is it gives me the knowledge and the context to actually engage. So I understand as much as a non-medical person could the latest preclinical and clinical research. I have context with which to process new news as it arises. And I definitely have a better appreciation for how research is done and why everything takes the time it takes, although I still think it can move faster. The global network, again, like it was amazing how warm and open individuals were at the conference. I know it wasn't always the case, so it's a credit to the patient fellows and Kathy and others before, but I really did feel like I could walk around the conference, talk to anyone, speak my mind, and folks were listening and really like taking it aboard. There was lots of networking time. I walked away with several new contacts and lots of follow-up meetings. Not to mention that it was, we all became fast friends as patient fellows, given our passion and our shared experience. And then I think the combination of the knowledge and the context, which helped us effectively network, then led to focus and confidence. So I emerged from the conference with a deeper focus on both biomarkers and genetics. Those are the areas that I want to dig more into personally in my advocacy. That what I said mattered. I definitely even challenged some of the scientists at points in the meetings where I thought things just didn't feel right. And I feel like people came up to me afterwards and encouraged that, right, or appreciated that. And I think really that, patients like me, like us, have an important role to play in curing ALS. And I really do believe that in the depth of my heart and soul. So next slide, that's it. Thank you again for letting me give an update. I look forward to hearing what the other patient fellows took away.
Thank you so much, Dave. And you shared your email there, so I'm assuming it's okay if people reach out to you.
100%, please do.
If you want to drop your email in the chat, please feel free to do so. All right. And next up, we have Cassandra. Cassandra, if you want to go ahead and unmute.
All right. First, I would like to thank ALS TDI for not only hosting today's event, but for their dedication in the fight against ALS. This is a picture from the Alliance meeting, and these are the sweet gloves that I won from our Canadian friends. In return, David Taylor from ALS Canada got my scarf. But it was a fair trade because then he wore it while he was moderating, which was pretty cool to see on stage. Next slide. So I'm Cassandra Haddad. I come from an SOD1 A5V ALS family, and I'm a genetic carrier. For at least 7 generations, my family has been decimated by SOD1 A5V, a particularly rapid genetic variant. The first picture is my grandfather, Harold Lindsay, who died in 1990, just before our causative gene was identified. For many years, we thought the rest of our family had escaped this disease that has claimed over 33 family members, until my uncle, Dwayne Lindsay, the second picture, started noticing some leg weakness. He was a participant in the VALOR trial. However, his trial participation was impacted by COVID, and he died from ALS in 2020. The next picture is my mother, Cindy Weber. The day my uncle died, my mother's ALS symptoms started. She participated in the Healy trial because VALOR was closed, and she was the first person in the country to receive tofersen through expanded access. She survived 25 months, which is incredible in our family. Although this time was far too short, I will always be thankful for those extra months she was able to spend with us. The next picture is myself at my first advocacy event with my twins, who are also at risk. They could be the 9th impacted generation on record. Next slide, please. As a genetic carrier, I know that research and advocacy are the keys to making ALS a livable disease. I want to help the ALS community who is currently impacted and those at risk of ALS or FTD like myself. Despite working full-time as a nurse practitioner and having 7-year-old twins, I see research and advocacy as something that I must do rather than choose to do, not only for everyone with ALS today and for myself, but my biggest motivation is I must save my children who are at risk. There are so many ways to be involved and so many great organizations. When I first started my ALS advocacy journey, I was a little too enthusiastic and was doing about 10 to 20 hours a week. I quickly figured out that I needed to make my advocacy efforts more streamlined so I could still have an impact and a manageable life. So in addition to the multiple observational and the one interventional trial that I'm involved in, I chose to focus my advocacy efforts into End the Legacy. I'm their vice chair, and to support the NEALS program as a research ambassador. And this past December, I was thrilled to be chosen as a patient fellow. Pictured here is me presenting at one of the Alliance meetings. Next slide, please. Today, I will focus on my experience as a patient fellow. I was chosen a little bit later in the process as an alternate, but was still able to attend some of the pre-meetings and get to know some of the other patient fellows. This is a tremendous strength of the program. Fellows get to know each other and get a preview of what the symposium will be like and how to navigate it. The support from the Alliance is incredible. I was a little nervous because I hadn't been out of the country in over 10 years, but with the support of the fellowship program, it was so easy. Another fun thing is my original family homestead is about an hour from where the symposium was held. So my father actually came with me, and that bottom picture is me at the original homestead, which is over 700 years old. They actually don't know how old it is. So that was really cool. I was able to attend all 3 sections of the conference. So although it was a really long 7 days, I met so many incredible people from around the world, it just flew by. In addition to meeting amazing people impacted by ALS, I was able to connect with other ALS advocacy organizations. You never know who you're going to be sitting to at dinner or at a break. I was able to connect both at the conference and socially with advocates, lead scientists, and providers from around the world. They were all gracious and interested in my story and my advocacy. I'll be honest, at times I was so overwhelmed by meeting people like Dr. Lucy Bruin that I had some tears. Do you know what Dr. Bruin did when I cried at breakfast? She hugged me. It was just incredible. Some of the leading names in ALS around the world broke down into tears when I shared my family's story. It's so easy to feel like there is no one trying to help us, no one trying to solve ALS. But one of the biggest takeaways I had from the conference is that the symposium shows that this is a global fight by a committed team. We must fight together. Patients and the at-risk community must absolutely work together and fight in the same direction. Pictured here is myself and Jean Swidler from End the Legacy, and that guy in the middle looks familiar because that was our previous speaker, David. And we got to meet for the first time at Neil's in Florida, so I'm happy we keep bumping into each other. Next slide. So lessons learned. It was a wild 7 days and it feels impossible to summarize, but I'll give you a few key points. First, like I said, this is a global fight. The world has dramatically different levels of resources that make studying this already heterogeneous disease really difficult. We don't even know the impact of ALS in some countries like Africa. It was tremendously eye-opening. So many different researchers and centers around the world are doing incredible work. We must share this information globally and not duplicate efforts. There continues to be a strong genetic focus at these large ALS meetings, and I firmly believe much of the work in genetics will benefit the entire ALS community as we continue to try and unlock this disease. I am more hopeful for myself and for my children than ever. Seeing success by young postdoctorates and experienced scientists alike is amazing. Perhaps the most amazing demonstration that we can make ALS a livable disease was the award ceremony that David referenced earlier, where we saw someone surviving FUS ALS. That's a miracle. In the midst of so much success and excitement, though, we must remember that words matter. At one closed meeting where David spoke up, an entire population was stereotyped and mislabeled without any genetic backup to do so, much less it being ethically wrong to label an entire group of humans as less than or other than. This is being addressed at multiple levels, including by the symposium itself, and we did write an article on this as well. But this is further proof that people with lived experience must always be present. Finally, this experience had a tremendous impact on my personal advocacy. And the legacy already had a global aim, but we were able to spend time in person with key leaders from around the world to form strategic partnerships. Hearing this global lived experience only fueled my desire to connect with the genetic community around the world and work on things such as translation, for example. Pictured here is my dad and myself in front of our population estimate poster that Jean and I did. And then the other picture is two other SOD1 folks, and we call ourselves the cousins, even though we have different variants and we're not related, but Helga from Iceland and Paula from Canada. Meeting them was probably the highlight of the entire symposium. And again, just helps show that this really is a global fight with my global cousins. So in conclusion, I'm so thankful for the global perspective, the professional relationships I was able to develop, and the deeply personal relationships with new friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. I'm going to try not to have tears. Okay, that was a very powerful presentation. All right, so next up, and I would love if anybody drops their questions into the chat. We will try to address as many as we can at the end. Now, there's our thank you to End the Legacy. And then if you wanted to drop in a link to End the Legacy, that would be great as well in the chat, Cassandra. All right, and next up, our next two presenters attended virtually. And so next up we have Lynn. And Lynn, if you'd like to unmute.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm an electronics engineer, and I look at things a little bit differently than scientists and doctors do. That's why I was so buzzed up to participate in this conference. That's a picture of my dog. I use an eye gaze computer. If you're not familiar with that, you can look at Toby Dynavox's website. Next. So I was really, really grateful to get to participate as a patient fellow. I was a voyeur to the conference, a remote participant on my eye gaze computer. The thing that kind of tripped me up was the time difference. It started at 8 in the morning in Switzerland, which was 2 in the morning my time. Oh my gosh. The first day I was so excited, but I had a password problem. So the second day, oh, next slide. So the second day was a lot harder. After being up all night, I kind of slept through the beginning of the next day. As a remote participant, the people at the symposium couldn't see me. It was a one-way deal from them to me. However, for the times when I woke up and I could watch the presentation live, I could participate by asking questions in the chat. Unfortunately, a lot of times there weren't time for the questions, but I did get many questions addressed by the panel, and I felt so proud about that. One of the things was switching between the presentation and the chat window, discombobulated my eye gaze computer. So I have offered to work with the association on getting user interface and user experience for eye gaze users improved for the next conference. Next page. I think being able to participate as a remote participant was amazing for me. And I only wish that we could figure out a way going forward to make it a two-way experience where, I don't know, maybe on a screen on the side, we could have some remote participants. Next page. I was so honored, and I got to see a lot of stuff. And I was so proud to see Anna from Germany, who had POOS, who had been restricted to a wheelchair, get up and walk across the stage. It means that even though ALS is an awful experience, there is real hope for the future, that things are changing. That's important. That's prompted me to apply to become a NEALS ambassador. I want desperately to get this message out. Thank you.
You're on mute, Nadia.
Thank you, Chelsea. I was talking to myself. Thank you so much for your presentation, Lynn. There's your contact info, which I will try to drop into chat as well. And I'm really grateful for you sharing some of the challenges. I know I've attended a few meetings in the last couple of years, and the virtual components, even ours at ALS TDI, there are things that we need to work on and do better. So I'm grateful that you're highlighting with honesty some of the challenges that were there as well. All right, and next up we have Callie Orslak. Callie, if you'd like to unmute.
Yep, I am unmuted. Hi, everyone. Thank you for asking me to speak today. I just wanted to say that I don't have a scarf, but I do have a pin that I'm wearing right now. So we still got the goods. And for Cassandra or anyone else that's thinking about coming to the conference in Montreal this year, I have 2 pairs of Canada mitts that I'm happy to give to anyone that wants. So I'm happy to trade and or just give them out to any of the patient fellows that come. So there you go. There's my guarantee, because I will for sure be at the conference in Canada in Montreal this year. So just a couple things about me. I've been in the ALS space for about 5 years now. So I'm a bit of a veteran, and the reason why I am part of the ALS space is because my husband was diagnosed with ALS in 2019, and unfortunately he passed away last year. So yeah, he's been gone for about 3 months. And by training, I'm a clinical pharmacist, so that's why I have an extra interest in research. And I'm from Canada, if you didn't already get that from my mitts. And if you go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to do this in the general sense, like, why should anyone who's watching this video today, why would you want to apply the Patient Fellow Program? Well, the symposium itself is the biggest international symposium for ALS, and that's where all the brilliant and ambitious minds in ALS come and they converge together. And like it's mentioned, it's a week long of just everyone who's involved in ALS just meeting and exchanging and networking. And I kind of think of it, because it runs in December, as like your exam for the end of the year. You've been an advocate, you've attended other conferences, and now this is the big one. This is the big exam. And one of the things that's really important about the Patient Fellow Program that I'd like to share with everyone is that if you are overwhelmed and you're not sure about how to navigate this really large conference, the Patient Fellows Program is perfect to apply to, because they kind of become your concierge. And not only your concierge, but they also put you with other people who are also like-minded patient advocates as well. So it's kind of like the best of the best. And you start off actually meeting these people months before the symposium. So it kind of prepares you for what you will actually go through when you do attend the conference. So that is really important. If you are overwhelmed or you just don't know where to start, like, apply to this program, become a patient fellow, and then you get all the goods ahead of time. You know, you get presentations from Dr. Taylor about what kind of scientific programs. He gives you little summaries about what kind of programs you may be interested in, what the leading science is, so that you kind of have an idea walking in. You also get a heads up about all the different conferences that happen that week, because it's not just the symposium itself. There's the Alliance meeting, there's an allied health meeting. And so by becoming a patient fellow, I actually learned about these meetings, and you get registration to these meetings as well. So when other people are mentioning, oh, it was a long week, it was a long week because there's also other meetings that you can attend. And this is also something you could do virtually as well. So you don't have to be present at the location. You can actually watch it virtually as well. So next slide, please. Okay. And so what was my experience at the conference? I've been to the conference now 3 times, 1 time as a poster presenter, and then 2 times as a patient fellow. And so I would give you my best tips about how to prepare for this conference. One is, as soon as the agenda comes out, go through it. and go through it not just once, but a couple times, and pick the things that you want to go to. And I actually set timers. I know I was also in the Houston time zone, and so yeah, it was starting a little bit late or a little bit early, depending on how you see it. But yeah, there were some topics I wanted to see live, and so I'd set an alarm just to make sure that I could attend that, because there's some things I wanted to ask questions about. And then also, it's not just about like the science. It's not about just the laboratory stuff that you know, people who aren't in science can understand. There's something for everyone, and because I've been in the ALS space for now many years, my interests have changed as time goes on. So, you know, maybe at the beginning, it was just about, okay, what are the results of clinical trials? What are they saying? What can I see in the pipeline in the next little while? Then it switched to, you know, what the science is, what's the background behind this? And then clinical trial design. Well, how do we make this so that people, like, how can we make this so that trials that are for people for ALS represent the people that are in the ALS space? And now, of course, I have a little bit more interest in caregiver experience and overall care for people with ALS and global experiences as well. So again, you can pick the things that you want over time, and that will may or may not over the years change. I really like the poster session as well. There's probably not an opportunity to look at every single poster, but I do review them ahead of time, so that if there is a poster that I actually want to discuss with the presenter, I know that the day that the poster is being presented, so I can actually attend that session and watch that poster and actually post questions for that presenter. So my advice to anyone, if you become a patient fellow, is to attend all the meetings ahead of time, and also look carefully through the agenda so that you can pick and you're prepared and you can pick what you want to see. And then the bonus of also being a patient fellow or an attendant at the conference is that you do get to go back and watch presentations you didn't get to see. So I would say that there's a win-win-win-win-win situation here, and it was just a wonderful experience. It's probably my favorite time of the year as someone in advocacy. And so next slide. And so I think I pretty much summarized everything that I felt about this program, but you do walk out again with a lot of confidence, and all the other fellows that have presented have said the same thing. Just by joining the patient fellow group, even if you aren't in attendance in the conference, you still meet people ahead of time at the meetings that we have to learn about the conference. And you always walk away with validation of what you were interested in, and what you know, like I said, it's your big exam at the end of the year, where it's like, okay, I think I understand this. Let's see, do I really understand this? But yet you also gain new interests. And of course, it inspires you. You will be all set for, you know, January 1 to get back in there and start advocating again. So I just want to thank the people that did organize Patient Fellows, because you do a wonderful job. And I feel like this is a great program. So anyone on this meeting today, I encourage you to apply. And one more mention is that a great person that is on this call went to Basel as well. His name is Robert Fullstitch, and he did a poster for IMALS, and he was kind enough to dedicate it to my husband, who I mentioned again had passed 3 months ago. So thank you to him for doing that.
Thank you so much, Kelly. That was wonderful. I'm going to stop screen sharing here so we can maybe ask some questions. But one of my cheats, while I have not been a patient fellow, I have attended the symposium virtually for a few years. And one of the things I do is just ask Kelly which sessions she's going to, because she's so on top of things. So make friends and ask them. All right, let's see. We didn't get many questions in the chat. So if you guys have any, please put them there. Callie, I'm glad that you shared a little bit about the 3 meetings. Can you kind of explain the difference between the 3 meetings that happen?
Yeah, I can do my best. And then if there are people that think they want to add, please do. But the Alliance meeting is, I think of it as a meeting of the global ALS communities. So it's not there to necessarily talk about the science, but it's there to kind of exchange ideas about how ALS is the overall global care of ALS in different parts of the world. So you definitely learn that there's some parts of the world that are ahead or just have good ideas. And then you can perhaps, take them back to your area that may have deficiencies. So I really like now that I've been in the space for a long time, I really appreciate the Alliance meetings because I guess I have a bigger perspective of ALS. And so then the other meeting is the Allied Health meeting. And so that is everyone in your clinic who is not the neurologist. So that will be like your speech language pathologists, your dietitians, physical therapists, and basically they present what type of projects they've been working on during the year. And that is also very interesting as well. I am by default, I am an allied health, I'm a pharmacist. So I do find, that meeting interesting as well, because it kind of tells you about, again, what the people that are in these specialties, what they are working on, what they're focusing on, because as you know, there are other things besides medications that can help you live longer with the disease or progress more slowly. And so again, this is really important. And I think this is sometimes an overlooked area is allied health and its importance.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Do you, thank you for your leadership at the Alliance. Do you have anything to add about the meetings?
That was the best description of our meetings I've ever heard. So I have nothing to add. Thank you, Callie.
I think our presenters are very thorough. I've never seen us get no questions. Carrie's saying great summaries of your patient fellow experiences with the symposium. Thank you, everyone.
Nadia, can I say one more thing though, other than about our meetings? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wonder if we could say a huge thank you to Kathy Collette for the genesis of this program, growing it to where it is today, and even the brilliance of the marketing of adding scars this year. She's always forward thinking, and her contributions to the community have a ripple effect because of the Patient Fellows program. And I just wanted to express certainly my gratitude, the gratitude of the International Alliance, and I think everybody on the call would probably echo that.
Yes, Kathy, I know that you can't talk right now, but there's a lot of gratitude going out to you. And yes, I'm very grateful. I've learned a ton from Kathy from day one and being in ALS advocacy. And so I'm just really grateful for all of her efforts. Kevin Garrity is asking, was there any discussion around utilization of AI and or quantum computing to accelerate development of ALS therapies? Any of the attendees see any of that?
Not specifically, which was a bit disappointing to me. I've heard in like follow-up conversations that folks are using this to kind of advance certain, research that they're doing, but it wasn't a major subject. Maybe in the Allied Professional Forum, like there was some mention about AI and voice banking and voice cloning and things like that, but I don't know, a little bit, right, Kathy? Yeah. It's amazing because I work in technology for a bank outside of this, and it's like all the rage, right? It just hasn't quite gotten fully penetrated this space.
I have a feeling we're probably going to be hearing a lot more about AI in upcoming years, because I think with science, there's still a few, like with the direct science, there's still a few things to overcome, but it seems to all be moving pretty rapidly. All right, let's see. Kathy Cummings, there's a question in the chat that might be good for you to address about from Bonnie, who's looking for ALS resources. Perfect. All right, and then we also have a few other research ambassadors. Katrina, do you want to unmute and say hello to everybody real quick?
Hi, everybody. I flounced my bow at y'all, or my patient fellow scar.
So good to have you here, Katrina. All right, and we're about at time, and since there's not a lot of questions, I'm going to let you guys all go. But thank you so much for being here. And this was really one of my favorite town halls that we've ever done. So thanks all for your contributions. Thank you to our presenters. Thank you to Kathy Collett and Kathy Cummings and Jess for being here. Take care all.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, ditto. Thank you to those people and to you too, Gwen. Gonna be another great year.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Dave, see you next week.
Yeah, see you soon.
Hmm.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.